It's great to see so many people in this room. How absolutely fantastic. And a special welcome to Bill Murphy, who has been away for 2 years and is in this room for the first time in 2 years. Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you. So for those of you who are new here, my name is Alain Barker, and I'm the president of this wonderful Rotary Club. And just in time for such a glorious weekend, I hope you were all able to get out and enjoy the beautiful weather. Friday marked the reopening of a major landmark in Bloomington. And the John Waldron Arts Center, which is now managed by Constellation Stage and Screen, opened its doors to the public and started introduced its new play, the Oscar Wilde, The Importance of Being Earnest, which is running through October 30th. And I just wanted to give a big shout out to Sally Gaskell, who's here, and to John Armstrong, who is their Director of Development, who, amongst a number of other people, made this extraordinary event happen in Bloomington. So congratulations to everybody with the Waldron. Okay, birthdays. I actually announced your birthday last week, but so you get a special second birthday. Dave Meyer's birthday is today. Happy birthday, Dave. Yeah. Yeah. And thank you for everything that you do in the club. Mike Wade is October 21st. Charlotte has her birthday on the 21st, as I mentioned last week, and Susie Graham on the 22nd. So a very, very happy birthday to them all. Thank you. We have our member anniversaries. Kevin Hopper Knudstrom, I think I always pronounce that incorrectly, but 3 years with us. Kevin, it's great to have you with us. Lawrence Snyder, who is here, he's going to be speaking to you very briefly. He's what is it? 13 years and 7 years with the club. Congratulations. Yeah. And then Walt Kuhn, 21 years. Really, really amazing. So congratulations to all of you members. I want to give Sandhya Sajan a shout out. Thank you so much for being our greeter. Would you like to come and introduce our guest today? Yeah. She's a member of the Rotaractor group at IU.
Hi, everybody. Just to reintroduce myself. Hi, my name is Sandhya Sajan. I am the Vice President of Rotaract here at the university. I'm a junior currently, and I'm studying in public health. It's very nice to meet you guys and to come to these lunches. It's been really fun meeting a lot of different people that I would normally not come across. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of the truth. But I'm very glad to have met a lot of people in this room. You guys definitely have cooler careers and things than a lot of college kids, so I'll give you that. So today's guest, well, I would technically be considered a guest today, but also we have another member of Rotaract here. It's Yaya Cater. He's a new member this year, and I would like to give him a warm welcome.
Thank you so much, Sandhya. And we're weird, but I guess there are lots of weird people in this community. So, Joy, are there any guests online?
Yes, we have.
I can't hear you for some reason.
Can you hear me?
Oh, we've got such a cute dog.
Okay, this is
we don't have any sound for Joy. So you're gonna have to put it in the chat. Say yes or no. Do we have?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
No, we can't hear you. So no guests. Do we have a guest? Say yes or no. We do have one guest. Okay. So can you tell us who?
Two guests.
Two guests. The dog is the second guest.
Yeah.
We have special rights here. Should we see who the guest is?
Stephanie.
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 Oh, Stephanie. Jim's guest, Stephanie. Van Hirschberg. Yes, Stephanie. It's great to see you, Stephanie. Unfortunately, we can't hear you, but welcome to the meeting. Yeah, yeah. Great, Stephanie. Stephanie's an old friend. Yeah, Stephanie and I have similar roots. Yeah, yeah, good. Fantastic, good. Okay, well, we have Judy Schroeder coming up for our reflection today. And Judy, it's wonderful to have you back in this room. You've taken a while to get back. Yeah, yeah. Welcome.
Here we go. I'm fine. When I retired, I made a list of things I wanted to do now that I had some time. And near the top was to be a poll worker at elections. Almost every election day since, you could find me at some precinct or another, working with the team, people from both parties, helping to make our democracy work. It's a long day, but there's great satisfaction in watching voters determine who will lead us. We cheer each first-time voter, and we really admire the fortitude of some people with physical disabilities who come because they want to cast their vote in person. Today, I'm asking my fellow Rotarians to consider volunteering at the polls. I know it's impossible for some of you, but perhaps you can recruit a friend or a family member or a neighbor. At a time when our election system is under attack, people like us, civic-minded community leaders pledged to honesty and fairness, must rise to the challenge. That's one thing we can do. Voters decide who is elected. There are winners and losers. That's the way it works. And losers admit defeat and vow to do better the next time. Our republic faces an unprecedented crisis when this bedrock principle is denied. Now, my vote doesn't always agree with the majority, but as a poll worker, I can attest to the integrity of the process. I've brought today little pieces of paper with information about how you, whatever your party, can sign up to work at the polls. Please consider picking one up when you leave, or maybe two. And thank you so very much. Oh, hey, you don't even have to miss Rotary because we meet on Thursday that day. So thank you very much for your kind consideration.
Thank you so much, Judy. And I come from a country where that just was not the case until 1994. And so I'm very grateful that every 2 years or every 4 years, depending on how you look at it, we have an opportunity to forge our destiny together as a country, which is pretty amazing. Okay, I want to just go through a few member updates to begin with. I just want a few shout outs because we have such extraordinary people in this club. Connie Shakalis, who's not with us today, she might be online, but Connie is extraordinary in what she does in the Herald Times. And I just wanted to thank her for all of the writing that she does to keep this community informed about the wealth and beauty of the arts as they are in this fantastic place. So congratulations to Connie. Blue Magazine very often celebrates Rotary members. And this month, or this edition, we have Phil Eskew, who was celebrated. I was interested to read about your sports accomplishments. Somebody who has been a big sportsman in his life. So it was great to read about you. Smithville, likewise, was celebrated for its centennial. Even though Aaron's no longer with it, he was great to bring Colin McCarty here to talk about their centennial. And the other big centennial this year is the Buskirk-Chumley Theatre. So both of those were celebrated, and both of those have connections to Bloomington, to the Bloomington Rotary Club. Sarah Laughlin is the president of the board of the Buskirk-Chumley Theatre. Liz Irwin, who might be online as well. Oh, she's right here. Hey, Liz, it's great to have you with us. Congratulations this weekend. I know that Duke Energy was the sponsor of the football game. And I wanted to thank you for being such a great person in this community and everything that you do for Duke. So thank you. Okay, a few club updates. We want to just make sure that you're aware that we have the Lunch Buddies document on the table here. Please take a good look. We're now in our second quarter, and you have an opportunity to meet yet another amazing person who you perhaps have never met before in the Rotary Club and go and have lunch with them. If they're not on the table, we will get them to you somehow. So just be aware that we are now moving into the next quarter. And if you can get together with your lunch buddy, that would be fantastic. In fact, if you're having lunch with somebody, take a picture and post it on the Bloomington Rotary group page on Facebook. So please do that. We always like to celebrate what's going on in the club. We want all of you to come up to the podium and give us your thoughts about the world in the form of reflections. And I'm looking at all of you in the eyes right now, asking every single one of you to consider that. Judy's reflection was such a powerful one today, and I think that you all have equally powerful things to say. So please come and join me here at the podium and tell us what's on your mind. So we'll be sending you a reminder about that on email as well. Palo Alto, you all know about the Palo Alto trip. I sent you an email about that. If you're interested, it's going to be a fabulous trip. We'll bring back information about it once we've been there, Sally and I. But if you do want to go and you want to go, we need to make sure that that happens as soon as possible. We have this weekend a few very interesting things. Pete Ellis Road Cleanup is happening. If you're interested in participating in that as a volunteer, please speak to Dave Meyer. Let's see here. Ryla, Lauren, would you like to come and talk about Ryla for a second? He has an update about Ryla.
As I believe most of you are aware, I am the district's RILA chair, Rotary Youth Leadership Awards Academy, and have been in collaboration with Miss Joy Harder for several years. But we've been on a 2-year hiatus from in-person RILA. We are back in the woods. Excuse me, back in the woods this Friday, and through Sunday. So far, we have approximately 50 students coming out. That number, Joy and I had worked so hard to get it up closer to 90 on an annual basis, and we're now taking a step back as we have no returning students because they've never experienced RILA. So we're taking a step back to ultimately restabilize the foundation for RILA, and we'll get it back up to that 90, hopefully surpassing that number at some point. But thank you. Our club is going to be sending 5 representatives. The Sunrise Club will be sending a couple. Thank you all for the support, and you will be inspired by these kids if you ever get the opportunity to come out and spend some time with them. But thank you for the club support. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And thanks to Lauren for everything that you've done. I mean, it's just been incredible to see this project come into being again. Let's see here. Business Outlook Forum, we're going to be sending this information on email, but I just wanted to remind you that it's going to be November 10th, which is a Thursday around the election time. Our meeting's not going to happen on that Tuesday. There's a Friends of the Rotary Foundation gathering in Columbus, November 18th, that we're going to give you some information about. And then also following the Rotary Toast, which I hope that you've all signed up for, we're going to be celebrating sort of an after party with our holiday party on December 8th. So there are some really fun things coming up. Okay, well, let's go ahead, and we've got a very special moment always with new members. I'm going to invite Dave to come to the podium, and we're going to have the induction of 2 new Rotary members. And I hope that you're all watching on Facebook, because we've been upping our game there, making sure that our new members are profiled in the Facebook pages. So please check out with that as well.
Thank you, Alon. I hope you have all noticed something. Our club is growing again, yes, and it's going to grow by 2 today. So I'd like to start by saying that we're really thrilled to have Vivian Bridges and Greer Carlson join us as new members today. And Jeff, Jeff is going to tell us a little bit about our new members.
Good afternoon. Judy, I loved your presentation. That's fantastic. Thank you. Oh, good. There we go. Now I'm really lucky. Thank you. Greer Garson is the new director of the Monroe County Public Library, succeeding Marilyn Wood this past May. Born in Blacksburg, Virginia, and moved to Indiana in the early 1990s. Greer quickly moved to Bloomington. He received both his bachelor's in English and master's in library science from IU. Greer worked in the IU HRLS library system at IU and later in the Wells Library Acquisitions Department as a graduate student. Between degrees, he worked at the Public Library of Cincinnati and Hamilton, and also at the Keaton County Public Library. His first professional library position was at Lake Forest Academy, north of Chicago, where he became school library director in 2009. He eventually became the director of academic technology and launched one of the first one-to-one school iPad programs in the country in 2011. While at LFA, he also served as director of electronic music studies, the digital music performance curriculum, and conducted the school's laptop orchestra. Later, he became director of Putnam Public Library in Greencastle, Indiana. In 2018, Greer became to MCPL as the collections manager and oversaw digital and physical collection development. In 2020, he was appointed associate director and worked closely with Marilyn on strategic planning and operational assessment. His focus on library work stems from his lifelong passions for intellectual freedom and transformative technologies. An avid cyclist and daily bike commuter, he lives with his family on the east side of town. So Greer, quite accomplished there. Very, very impressive. Vivian Bridges. Vivian, I had the honor, of course, not only to know you, but to know your husband so well back in the 70s and 80s, and when I was still active here in Bloomington. Vivian Bridges was born in England during World War II. Her father was an Army Air Corps navigator, and her mother was a granddaughter of the Cardiff Castle head gardener. They were stationed all over, but much of her elementary education was completed back in England. The family settled in Illinois, and she attended the University of Illinois until marrying. She settled in Bloomington, Indiana, IU, with her family. She then resided for over 50 years in Monroe County. Vivian was very active in local politics and wore out shoes knocking on doors and getting out the vote. She spent 25 years in local government, starting with Vi Simpson in the auditor's office. She worked in the financial office, specializing in payroll, ledger, and distribution of property excise and county income taxes. She was a member of the Monroe County History Board, volunteered in thrift shops, hosted exchange students, and worked in Teachers Warehouse. She was married to Judge Douglas Randy Bridges for 37 years, and they made Rotary a priority. Again, I just want to say that Randy was someone who was beloved by everyone. You'd never know there was a label next to his name. He was so well respected. Randy's father, Orphrey Bridges, was a leading Rotarian, and they continued his legacy of service above self. They loved to travel the world and work with Rotarians from all continents. They were particularly interested in combating human trafficking. Randy spent a wonderful year as district governor, starting new clubs and other key initiatives that exist to this day. Vivian is excited to join Rotary as a member and continue his work. Vivian has 2 children, 4 stepchildren, 16 grandchildren, and 1 great-granddaughter. So Vivian and Greer, well done. Lives well lived. Well lived. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeff. So I would like to turn to the more formal part of our induction. Vivian and Greer, on behalf of the board and membership of the Bloomington Rotary Club, it's a great pleasure to welcome you as the newest members of our club. We look forward to the fellowship that you will share, as well as your participation in many club projects that make our community, country, and world a better place. Though Rotary is not a political organization, Rotarians are vitally concerned with good citizenship and the election of strong leaders to public office. While Rotary is not a religious organization, it's built on those eternal principles that have served as a moral compass for people throughout the ages. Rotary is an organization of business and professional people pledged to uphold the highest ethical and moral standards. Rotarians believe that worldwide fellowship and peace can be achieved when people unite under the Rotary motto of service above self. Rotary activities exemplify the charity and sacrifice that you would expect from people who believe that they have a responsibility to help others. Vivian and Greer, you have been chosen for membership in the Bloomington Club because of your fellow members believe you to be a leader in our community and because you possess the qualities to champion the message and principles of Rotary. You are a representative of your vocation within our club and community. You now become an ambassador of the Bloomington Rotary, carrying the ideals of service to all those within your sphere of influence. Our community will know and judge Rotary by your character and service. We will also look for you for inspiration as we strive to become better Rotarians. We will now pin you with the distinguished badge of a Rotarian, your Rotary pin. And our sponsor is Jim Bright. and Marilyn Woods. This is always the tricky part. I check all the pens beforehand to make sure they work. Yeah, yeah, some don't. Okay, while that is proceeding, we ask that you wear your Rotary pen with pride, not only to all Rotary functions, but to your, but in your many endeavors as a symbol of your commitment to Rotary ideals and our recognition of your contribution toward a better world. Fellow Rotarians, those on Zoom, sit up in your chair, and those here, please rise and welcome our newest Rotarians, Vivian Bridges and Greer Carlson.
Oh, what a special moment that is always. What a wonderful reminder of why we're this incredible organization, what we do in this amazing organization. Thank you, Dave, so much for leading that ceremony. I think that there's time for happy dollars. So let's do that. We haven't done that for a while, so hopefully there's a few things that you'd like to celebrate. Anybody online, maybe you want to go, oh no, you cannot because we can't hear you. Oh dear, my apologies. My apologies. We'll make sure, just store that up for next week and we'll get to you next week. I see Ron Barnes is sitting there desperate to say something, but he can't. Okay, anybody in, we've got over there, Liz Final? Okay, then Schwartzberg. And
I am very happy. I'm really happy that Constellation Station Screen opened with such a magical show at the renovated Waldron. I encourage everyone to go see it. Whether you like Oscar Wilde or not, it's a ball. I'm also very happy that this week is my beloved Charlotte's birthday, and I cannot wait to celebrate with her. And I'm happy that we're all here.
Yes, I'm just happy to be in Bloomington and this county and this part of the state for this time of year. It's beautiful.
Okay, I'm happy because I have a birthday, of course. And because the doctor yesterday told me I had the lab results of a 25-year-old. So watch out. So watch out. I'm really happy to be a member of this club, which if it had been 50 years ago, I wouldn't be here. So anyway, yeah, I'm happy because there are good things happening in the world as well as bad.
Well, I'm happy because I just recently returned from celebrating with my 102-year-old mother. We went to our county fair in Iowa.
wow. Cheers. Sorry. See, they're capturing the side of.
I'm happy to see Bill Murphy here in person after so long a time. And I'm happy to see a vibrant Rotaract club here. Sanjay, nice job with the introductions. Thank you.
Yeah. Michael, could you go to the other side of the room so we can spread the love a little bit?
Michael, thank you. I have $20, $5 for each member of the Bloomington Rotary Club sponsored refugee family, the Mohammadi family. And Cindy and I had the joy, the reason I'm giving money is we had the joy of taking them out on Saturday into the woods at Griffey Lake Nature Preserve during this magical time of fall colored leaves. And you should have seen their faces, how many hundreds of pictures they took of each other and the trees and whatnot, having never seen anything like this. It was an absolutely magical and joyous experience with this family here in Bloomington that we're helping to get established.
Great.
I've got $20 to give. It's great to be back in person again. I've been on Zoom and, but I haven't been in person since before COVID. So it's been back. It's good to be back and see everybody again.
Okay, we'll take one more.
Yes, in honor of Charlotte's doctor and Charlotte's birthday, I'm giving a $25 for that great report.
Good, thank you. And may we all stay in good health through this season. Good, good, good. Well, we have a very special guest today, and I believe that Lynn Schwartzberg is going to do the introduction.
Well, hello. As Judy pointed out, this is election season, and we have a tradition of welcoming our candidates from, well, if we had a third party, we would welcome them as well, but from our Republican and Democratic corners, so that you can get to know them better and ask the questions that you have and hear their views. So today I am delighted to introduce Matt Fyfe. He is a lifelong Hoosier who was raised in a small farming community. His mother was a bus driver and his father worked 45 years on the railroad, providing for their family with union benefits and pay. Matt currently teaches at Bloomington High School North here in Bloomington, where he lives with his wife and 3 young children. Matt believes strongly in public education and is as a bedrock of our society, allowing the possibility for all students to achieve the American dream. He earned a bachelor's in education from Goshen College. He then earned an education policy degree from Vanderbilt's top-ranked Peabody College. Today, Matt continues to teach and is an organizer and leader in his local teachers union. He serves on the board of executives for the local union. He earned additional mathematics credit hours so that he can help students earn college credit while in high school. He is passionate about serving his community. Sounds like he might be a good Rotarian. And he strongly believes in the power of everyday people to build a better future. Please give a warm Rotary welcome to Matt Fyfe.
Thank you all for allowing me to be here today. It is wonderful to be in a room with so many, I'm going to say like-minded folks, community-oriented, public service-oriented folks. And I think listening to the stories, the new members, the happy moments has brought a little joy to my life. So thank you, Lynn, for inviting me. Thank you all for having me. Also, the food was really delicious. And as I'm looking around, I didn't get to the tables as much as I want to, but there are a few members I know pretty well from the community. So good to see you all as well. My name is Matt Fyfe. I'm running for the United States House of Representatives. I should start there. I'm the Democratic nominee. And I was asked to tell a little bit about myself today, and I'll do so through a few stories. I usually do this through 3 stories. I am a high school teacher. I'm a father of 3, and I'm a leader in my labor union. And those 3 stories about myself have led me to this moment, to running for office. And so let me jump in. As I grew up, I did grow up with a dad who was in a union himself, was in the railroad. He corrected me the other day. It was actually 47 years. I've been saying 45. It is not your fault. Yeah. And so he really wanted those 2 extra years. He was in the railroad for 47 years. And so I saw the benefits of good pay, good wages, good retirement nowadays. And when I had the opportunity to join the union myself, to be a steward for better working conditions for my fellow teachers and educators, for better classrooms for my students, that was an easy choice for me. And so I have fought for those good wages, benefits, and retirement, and I'd like to continue to do so at a larger level. I am also doing this a little bit out of personal, just my 3 children are 8, 5, and now 2 as of a few weeks ago, 2 years old. And I want to see them grow up in a Southern Indiana that they love, that the same Southern Indiana that I love. These changing leaves, these beautiful forests, the lakes, the rivers, we have some fantastic things going on here. And I want them to grow up, and if they go away to college, military, Peace Corps, whatever it may be, I want them to be able to come back, to have a thriving job, to have a great outlook on life, and personally, I think by being community oriented and building a better future for them, that's just a personal one to me where my kids can grow up here and love it. And then finally, the third reason maybe the biggest reason I'm running for office and what pushed me on this trajectory to begin with is, as a teacher, as somebody who always thought they would be a teacher, I've seen policies up close that negatively impacted our students. And I'm going to tell two of those stories today. Partly I'm telling these stories and I picked them because not only do I think they highlight some things going on in public education, but they also you get to see a little bit more about me. And the first one was when I started my teaching career, this is over a decade ago. I was actually down in Nashville, Tennessee. My wife was getting a doctoral degree from Vanderbilt University. She works here. She's a professor here at IU nowadays in psych and brain sciences. And so we were down in Nashville, Tennessee. I was working at a school, and the principal sat us down at the end of the first year and said, "We're all going to be fired if our test scores don't go up." And that was the policy that was put in place. This is what I've learned since then. That was the policy put in place from the federal level. Test scores had to continue to go up. Test scores had to rise. And from the state had put policies in place that says, here's how we'll take care of that. If schools don't get it to happen, we're going to go in and take over these schools. And so from the federal level, from the state level, from on down, these policies were put in place. And I'll be honest, probably with good intentions, right? We want to make sure students are achieving at a high level. But unfortunately, what happened is I don't think it necessarily helps students. And here's why. So we actually improved our test scores. So at a school-wide level, we had about 10% of kids passing Algebra 1 my first year, a little bit lower than that. By the end of the third year, personally, I had 60% of my kids in my class, and I had mostly Algebra 1 classes passing that test. And that sounds like a really awesome thing, right? 50% gain, 50% more achievement. But it came at some expense. We cut music programs. We spent $40,000 on calculators. We spent money hiring another teacher who had no classroom or student responsibilities, but only administered tests. Kids were doubled up in math classes, so they were taken out of some of their favorite classes or other things that they needed. Not only did we cut some music programs, but like kids weren't able to take some. And personally, this one hurts too. I quit having as much discussion in my classroom. I quit having as much problem solving. I got rid of my unit that dealt with credit cards so students could actually see what interest rates were like after high school. And things like that, although it was a policy success, we raised test scores, it didn't feel like we were doing what was best for students, especially in the long run, especially for after high school. And that's what got me interested in policy to begin with. Why were these policies being put in place? So I went back to Vanderbilt was right there. So Vanderbilt's Peabody University at the time was the #1 ranked education school in the world. And I knew we'd only be there for a little bit, right? Because my wife was getting that degree. And so I thought, I wonder if they would even accept me. And so they did, and I got a policy degree. And I look back on that time very thankfully as a time where I learned a lot as a teacher. I learned a lot to help students, but I also got put on this path, right? And so my wife and I have always wanted to get back to Indiana, kind of close to family. And we were able to do that. And back here in Indiana, I just want to mention one more education-specific policy. Now, I tell this one occasionally. This is not a federal level policy, so I want to be clear. Standardized testing is. We still test students today. We're not as strict with some of the accountability or the punishment of schools afterwards, but we still test kids today. And that's a federal level policy that we test them in 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and again in high school, these big standardized tests. My son started 3rd grade this year and has not taken any standardized tests yet, but has already taken multiple tests for the school that will set him up for success in the standardized test, right? So not only are we taking a few days away from kids for the standardized tests, but we're still taking away other days. We're still cutting into these programs that could be more beneficial for students. The second story I want to tell about is this is a more state level policy. But I feel like it's important to tell these sort of stories, not only because it gives you a little bit more of my background, but it is important when we're around community, like-minded folks who are community-oriented to share these stories about what's going on. Here in Indiana, we have a school choice movement is often what it's called. I'm going to call it a kind of a privatization movement though, of some of our public schools. And don't hear me wrong there. Private schools can be really great and are really great, many of them. My wife attended a Lutheran school from ages K to age 8, grade 8. She loves all of the 34 of her other classmates that she had, right? Still best friends with them to this day. Private schools are doing amazing things. But, and here's my main point, the way we are funding our school choice movement hurts public schools, unfortunately. So it's not that I'm against private schools, but unfortunately, the way we are funding some of our school choice movement here in Indiana is hurting our public schools. And I tell this story, my first job after moving to Indiana was actually over at Edgewood High School. And I hadn't applied there. I thought I was not going to have a job for a little bit when I came to Bloomington. My wife and I kind of got a hurried, rushed offer. I don't know if any of you have gotten an offer like that before. And so we moved here. I didn't quite have a job yet, but we had a little one. I thought I'd be the sole childcare provider. Finding childcare is another story I could tell after I got a job offer too. So I got this call from Dirk Ackerman. He's the principal over at Edgewood. He says, hey, I hear that you're a math teacher. I hear you have a degree. Will you come work for us? We need an extra person. Now, this job may only be 1 year. We have a bump in enrollment. Our math numbers are really big. They were still trying to get their test scores up too, right? So our enrollment's really big. We have 30 in a class right now. I don't want our math teachers to have that many in class. Can you come work for us? What's going to happen next year is we might have a slight decrease in enrollment because we have a charter school that's opening a high school nearby. And that's what happened. I worked there for 1 year. It was fantastic. I got to know a lot of people. Working at a small school like that is really great because you get to just know the students so well so quickly and the other educators so well very quickly. But as the funding, so the way funding works here in Indiana is as some of those students went to the charter school instead of the public high school, just a little bit of the funds were taken away from that public high school and they lost a teacher. Now you may say, well, you may not need that teacher, right? Like not as many students, you may not need as many teachers. And there are just two aspects that I want to highlight. There are many aspects we could highlight about kind of this difference between public and private and kind of how our school choice here in Indiana works. But two I want to highlight specifically. One is that if I started a school today, if any of you maybe started a school today, some of you are probably capable and really enjoy things like that, and you had 10 students, you could probably teach those 10 students really exceptionally well. You may not have to worry about busing. You may not have to worry about lunches. You may not have to worry about your teacher certifications, right? Because there's maybe just one of you. But what happens is by taking 10 students away, by taking 10 funding, $10 amounts of students away from a public school, that's just a little bit less that public school has to work with. And so instead of having an extra math teacher, instead of having an extra music teacher, instead of having this a little bit extra to work with from a public school standpoint, you have just a little bit less and your numbers go back up in classrooms to 30 or so. And if that continues at a slightly larger scale, what happens is you end up closing some of your schools, right? And so we've also seen that in the RBB school district. They've closed an elementary school. As I've gone around to the 18 counties here in Southern Indiana, there are a lot of school districts who are closing some of their rural schools because they just have slightly less funding. It's not enough to really make a huge difference, right? It's not enough to change the way the school operates or works, but it's enough to close one of their elementary schools and consolidate. And so that's the number one worry of mine, is that by slowly siphoning away from these public schools, we are losing money and hurting our student success in the long run. And the second thing I want to bring up is many of these families that do end up going to the private schools weren't going to send their students to public schools to begin with. And so picture it as a pot of money that's about this large. There's now extra students in this pot of money, but we haven't made the pot any bigger. And so those are just two kind of small reasons why public schools are being hurt by the way we fund our school choice movement here in Indiana. Now, those two policy aspects, right? That's kind of those are two little stories about myself, but those two policy aspects got me really interested in what's happening because I want to see students love school. I want to see students grow up. I want them to find their success. And I see that happening at some schools, but I also see that being a challenge. And part of the challenge is funding, right? And why are we doing these policies if they are very clearly, if any educator you talk to will say they're hurting students? Why are we doing these policies? At the end of the day, the reasoning I have come up with, and part of the reason I think I've stepped up to run for office, is it seems like we have a lot of people going to DC who are out of touch. They aren't listening to educators on the ground. They aren't listening to nurses in the hospitals. They aren't listening to the doctors, the social workers who are on the ground and seeing the challenges we have every day. And part of that union aspect of, hey, if you see a challenge, you can be the one to stand up and organize, got into me probably a year and a half ago now and said, you can do this. And I've continued to get good feedback about that because I think people want to see change in the way policies are made. They want to see change in the way DC works. They want it to be a little bit less about the lobbyists, the big money that runs through the system. They want it to be more community oriented. They want to see representatives who are here on the ground speaking and available to folks no matter how much money is in their wallet, no matter what background or zip code they come from. And so that's why I'm running. Those three stories about myself, you can maybe think back to them. I want to see my kids grow up here happy. My union said you can be the one to make change if you want to. And I see the policies every day as a teacher that we can change. With that, I was going to say, I have a little bit more, but I think I want to open it up to questions first, and then the little bit more can be an ending, if that's all right.
Thank you, Matt. That was a wonderful story. Given your background at the Mennonite Goshen College, I wonder how much of your life is influenced by those Anabaptist values of nonviolence, peacemaking, criminal justice, global interest, and simple living.
Yeah, that's, I'm curious of your background now. That was thoughtful. So I myself am not Mennonite. When I was looking for a college after high school, I was looking for a small Christian college. I also played baseball there. So I wanted something where I could be athletic as well. That's the experience I wanted. And I think one of the main things that I learned there was to be a Christ-like public servant. They didn't say public, but a Christ-like servant. One who looks after the poor, the needy, one who is out in the communities talking with folks. And I think that aspect has resonated throughout my life and maybe in this campaign. Now, I will say, I don't think I talk about my faith a lot, particularly from a political pulpit, right? I think there is a clear separation of church and state for a reason. And I think that is a really good thing because my faith is not the same as everybody else's. And our values are, although our values sometimes may overlap, the way we hold ourselves and the values we should go for as a nation may be different. So does that answer your question fully? Also, I think the peaceful aspect. I really like the nonviolent, so that's a little bit too.
I wondered if you could speak to us briefly about your views on environmental policy in this country.
Yeah. So I talked about my children wanting to grow up and love the forest, love the rivers, love the climate here in Southern Indiana. I'm scared that if we continue at a slow pace to change how we view energy in this country, that my children won't have the same ability to do that as I do. Now, I'll tell this with a different story too. I was able to put solar panels on my house in 2017. Now, we did it in a little bit hurried fashion in 2017 because in 2018, the policy changed from our state lawmakers. No longer could we get net metering for 30 years, and it would have been more expensive for us, basically. It wouldn't have been as good of an investment. our solar panels on our house, we are a fully electric house. We have a couple solar panels. We end up paying about 2 months out of the year, any sort of bill. And I think, gosh, I haven't checked this lately, but I think the payout was supposed to be somewhere between 7 and 11 years, right? So yes, there was this upfront investment. It was a little bit of an investment, but pretty quickly that investment pays off, and we no longer have to worry anymore about where we're getting our energy from. We no longer have to worry about kind of blackouts. We no longer have to worry about paying this bill every month. And so when I think about the long term, I think very similarly. We need energy independence. I think my opponent actually, maybe next week, will say something similar. But the way we view this is mine is a long-term view of what energy independence looks like, right? I think we need to plant more trees. I think we need to update our electric grid so that we can hold some of this renewable power. I think we need to invest in research and solar and wind. That way we can harness some of this natural energy that, again, in the long run pays for itself and continues to pay for itself. And so some of that is, I guess that personal story is a little bit of my environmental outlook, but it's also just important because floods and droughts and fires, they're happening more often. And to be able to protect the ones who are most vulnerable, who most get hurt by these, we have to be prepared, right? And being prepared means thinking about, where does our wastewater flow? How do we protect against a flood or a drought? And so my environmental policy is basically, let's do something about it and do it in a hurry.
As my own question. Hi. Following up on renewable energy, do you think there's room for revitalization of nuclear energy in this country as a means of getting to net zero carbon emissions?
That's a good question. I think it's a tricky one because I think many people look at nuclear energy and say, that'd be great. It's fairly cost expensive. It works, right? But nobody really wants it in their backyard, right? It's the not in my backyard situation. Nobody wants nuclear energy near them because if something terrible were to happen, it's nearby. So I think when I talk about some of the research aspects of making sure that we're researching new energy, some of that would go into nuclear. Because again, like you brought up, it works. It's fairly cheap compared to some options, and it's been proven.
Yearly, we are asked to increase the amount of taxes for funding schools. And when we do that, it seems the administration grows and the teachers level does not grow. What's your thoughts?
That's a really good question. I think so I can speak to the referendum that is happening this year. I think I can speak a little bit to it. Man, I'm realizing I am campaigning a lot and maybe don't know as much as, I think some of the dollars have been allocated to teachers and aides this year, bus drivers as well. And I think that makes me happy to see, because I agree with you that it's great to have an extra administrator nearby. It was really nice to have that extra teacher I talked about who just did test prep, right? Like, made my life easier. But at the end of the day, I think the thing that impacts students, and all of you probably have this story of the teacher that impacted your life, your kid's life, your grandkid's life. The teachers are in there making a difference every day. The people interacting with the students on a daily basis. And so that's what I want to see more of, student impact policies, not necessarily, you may say bloated administrative costs, whatever it may be. Now, being somebody who's also been in a school, sometimes administrators are needed, right? I'm not going to just say always cut them. But yes, I want to see it go to the students. And a story you can tell, there are still, I think, 1,500 educator openings here in Indiana. There were 3,000 at the beginning of the year, so that's classrooms that aren't fulfilled or filled right now. And that's been a long-term thing. Yes, COVID COVID, I think, hurt that. Some retirements hurt that, but that's been a long-term coming. Here in MCCSC, I worked with a para last year in the E&L office. So students where English was their second language. She was a para. So not the educator, not the teacher in the classroom. And we got to know each other pretty well because I had a class where 5 of my kids were English was their second language. And I think 4 of them basically passed because of her. I don't know that they would have passed my class or a couple of other classes without her just direct attention. I mean, she was on them. She was great. They knew her. They had a great relationship with her. And I got to know her throughout the year. And at the end of the year, I said, hey, what are you doing next year? And she basically said, I'm going to get a job at a retail store because she's not getting paid enough. And the job at the retail store would be a similar pay, right? Maybe a little better, but there's no added stress of what are my, how are my students doing? There's none of that baggage when you go home to think, what are the kids doing? There's none of the taking an extra tutoring session after school. And so I think although she loved and knew that she would miss the aspect of being with students and helping, it was just a financially overall better decision for her. And so that's my thoughts on it is we need to help the people who are there with students every day.
I think that's it. Unless there's another question, should we have one more question?
I'll just say one quick thing. I think you just nailed it. We're spending too much time lowering standards, changing rules to recruit people, but not enough time to retain our current staff. And it's actually happening in our healthcare system as well. And so anyone who can address that and acknowledge it as you did, amen. I just want a really quick question. You've been very gracious not to even mention your opponent, but what are the 3 things that distinguish you from your opponent?
Thanks. I think that leads into my ending pretty well as well. I should just mention my organizing at the state level also deals with retaining 0 to 5-year teachers. It's something I'm pretty passionate about. So also agree with you. The main question I get out on the campaign trail is why should I vote for you, right? I think some of these policy-oriented questions are great, but some people just ask, why should I vote for you? And I've boiled it down to just 2 reasons, intention and ability. I have a good intention. I do not take money from big corporations or lobbyists, and I do so that I can be here on the ground listening to folks. I have made a pledge to make sure that I'm in all 18 counties quarterly and that I'm holding town halls, which are not happening currently, in all 18 counties yearly. I want to be somebody who's here for people, particularly everyday folks. And ability, with a master's degree and having fought for wages, benefits, retirement, I can read and write policy, and I know I'll do well in that regard. And there's probably a joke there of, I have a high school classes all day. I got 30 kids in my class. How different can Congress be? There's probably some joke in there too. I think the difference when you look at me versus my opponent, yes, she has been at the State House. I think she has ability. I'm going to give her that. Has she worked in a bipartisan setting? No, the supermajority at the State House is on her side at all times, right? But she has the ability to probably read and write policy and do well. I think the intention is different. I think she has big money sources from both party and corporate lobbyists, and she is not debating right now. She's not getting out into town halls and forums, and I don't think she has the intention to do so after elected. So thank you for the question. Thank you. That's a little bit of a down note, but thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it. And like I said, the public service, community-oriented groups like this, stay involved. I'm glad to see new members. I'm glad to see you all are growing. Continue to think about people around you and our neighbors, and I'm going to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you so much. So I first met Matt when he came to my door with his family, and it was a wonderful conversation. So Matt, in honor of you being with us, we support an organization in town, Stages Bloomington. Every quarter we choose a different organization to support. And so this quarter, we're supporting Stages Bloomington. So thank you so much. Thank you once again. Okay, I want to just quickly thank those of us who've made this meeting possible. Sandhya, thank you so much again for greeting our guests and for being here to introduce them. Tyler Nichols, thank you so much for helping with producing our hybrid meeting. Joy, of course, as always. Judy, for that absolutely wonderful and very powerful set of comments at the beginning. And then our roundabout reporter, Jim Bright, who's doing a yeoman's job with that as well. Next week, we will meet Erin Huchin from Salem. She is currently, or she's represented the 47th district in the state Senate for a number of years. She received her bachelor's degree from IU and holds a master's degree in political management from the George Washington University. So that'll be very interesting to see what she has to say. So thank you so much. With that, let's celebrate with the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, first, second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, would it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And fifth, is it fun? Thank you all so much. We'll see you next week. Thank you.